Hello, my dear listeners, and welcome back to the Kapeel Gupta Career PodShow. And this is the second episode of With You Conversations. Today, I want to begin with a question that sounds simple but can hit very hard when you answer it honestly. Have you ever sat in the middle of a group, laughed at all the right places, replied in the WhatsApp chat, gone to the canteen, attended the fest, taken the photo, posted the story, and still felt strangely alone? Now, if your answer is yes, then this episode is for you. Because today we are talking about something many students feel, but very few know how to name, that why students feel lonely even with friends. Now, this kind of loneliness is very confusing. If someone is physically alone, the feeling makes sense. But what do you do when you have friends, group chats, plans, classmates, roommates, and still go to bed with a quiet ache inside? Now, that kind of loneliness is harder to explain. Now, it makes you doubt yourself. It makes you wonder, what is wrong with me? Everyone is around me. Why do I still feel like nobody really knows me? And that is exactly where the real conversation begins. Hi, I'm Kapeel Gupta, career coach, life mentor, graphotherapist, and founder of Study Abroad Academy and WithYou.space. Now, for over 2 decades, I've been helping students, parents, and young professionals gain clarity, confidence, and direction in life and career through deep coaching, mindset transformation, and the powerful practice of graphotherapy. Because success is not just about choosing the right course or building the right career. It's about becoming the right person, nurturing meaningful relationships, and creating a life that feels peaceful, purposeful, and truly your own. And that's what this podcast is all about. And today, in our With You Conversation series, we are going beyond careers and achievements. Because sometimes what we need most is not advice, but understanding, not solutions, but someone who listens. So let's slow down, have a meaningful conversation, and remind ourselves that no one should have to carry everything alone. So let me tell you a story. Imagine a girl named Ria. Now she gets into a decent college, not the kind of college that becomes a family poster, but not the kind people whisper about either. Good enough for relatives to say, "Acha hai, theek jagah hai." Now she moves into a hostel in a new city, shares a room with girls she has just met, joins a WhatsApp group within 2 days, gets invited to chai in the evening, finds a canteen table, and very quickly becomes part of a social circle. On paper, she's fine, but actually, not just fine, settled. Now she has people around her from morning till night. She goes to class with them, eats with them, laughs with them, takes group photos with them, and makes weekend plans with them. Her mother calls and asks, "Friends bane?" And she says, "हाँ हाँ, काफी अच्छे लोग हैं." And that is not even a lie. The friends are real, but so is the loneliness. Because late at night, when the noise settles and the room becomes quiet, she feels something she cannot explain. Not exactly sadness, not exactly homesickness, just a strange, silent distance. Like she's present in every room, but fully known in none of them. Like she's performing being okay instead of actually being okay. And the hardest part? She does not know how to tell the very people sitting across from her at the canteen table that she feels completely alone. Now imagine a boy named Arjun. He is a different version of the same story. He's funny, easy to talk to, always surrounded by people. He becomes part of the last bench crowd very fast. And he's the one people call when they want energy in the room. He organizes outings, knows names, cracks jokes, and from the outside looks like he's doing college life better than everyone else. But one day, maybe in the third month, he realizes something very uncomfortable. Not one of these new friends knows what he's really scared of. Not one knows that he's still carrying disappointment because this college was not his first choice. Not one knows that he feels guilty when he thinks of the pressure his parents handled to send him here. Not one knows that he calls his mother at night not because he's mama's boy, as the group jokes, but because she's the only person with whom he does not feel on. So, yes, he has friends, and yes, he feels lonely. And that is the kind of loneliness this episode is about. Not the loneliness of empty rooms, the loneliness of full rooms, not the loneliness of nobody around, the loneliness of not feeling truly seen. And once you understand that, a very important truth becomes clear. Loneliness is not always about the absence of people. Sometimes it's about the absence of depth. And that one line can change how you understand your own life. Because many students think the solution to loneliness is always more people. Join another club, make more friends, go out more, be more social, attend more events, reply faster, smile more, put yourself out there. And yes, sometimes all that helps, but not always. Because the real issue is not always a lack of contact. Sometimes it's a lack of connection. You can be in 5 groups and still feel unknown. You can get birthday stories from 20 people and still feel unseen. You can laugh all day and still not feel emotionally safe. Now, that is why this kind of loneliness is so confusing. It doesn't look lonely. It looks social. It looks normal. It even looks successful. But inside, the heart knows better. And this is not a small issue. It's bigger than many people realize. The World Health Organization has said that loneliness affects around 1 in 6 people globally. And among young people aged 13 to 29, roughly 17 to 21% report feeling lonely, with teenagers showing the highest rates. That means if you're young and feeling like this, you're not weird, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone in feeling alone. Now, let us go a little deeper. That why does this happen so often in student life? Now, the first reason is that college friendship and emotional intimacy are not the same thing. In the early months of college, most friendships are built on proximity, routine, and convenience. Same class, same corridor, same hostel floor, same attendance problems, same canteen, same professor, everyone dislikes equally. Now that creates companionship. Yes, but companionship is not automatically emotional closeness. A lot of students' friendship in the beginning happens on the surface. Assignments, food, attendance, fests, teachers, internal marks, placement gossip, weekend plans. These things matter. They create warmth, they create rhythm, they create social comfort, but they do not always create depth. And when there is no depth, loneliness can quietly continue even in the middle of laughter. And this is why a student may have people to sit with, but nobody to open up to, people to hang out with, but nobody to break down with, people to tag in a story, but nobody to say, I'm not okay, to without fear of becoming too much. And that is not fake friendship, it's just unfinished friendship. The second reason is that college often begins with performance, not authenticity. Nobody tells students this clearly enough, so let me say it. The first few months of college can feel like wearing a social costume. You're not fully fake, but you're not fully relaxed either. You're presenting a version of yourself that feels safe enough to be accepted, a slightly more careful version, a slightly more edited version, a version that will not be judged too quickly. And the funny thing is, everyone is doing the same thing. That means campuses are often full of young people who are all secretly unsure, all trying to look sorted, all trying to belong. and all assuming everyone else has already figured it out. And that is a very lonely environment, even when it's crowded. You're not meeting each other's raw selves. You're not meeting each other's socially acceptable drafts. And until those drafts slowly relax, emotional closeness struggles to begin. And the third reason is comparison. Ah, yes, the favorite side dish of student life. Someone already has an internship. Someone else looks confident in seminars. Someone seems to have found their people. Someone has a relationship that looks like a Netflix miniseries. Someone is active in society, speaks great English, knows seniors, knows faculty, and somehow also has a clear skin. And then there is Instagram, the great national museum of everyone else's highlight reel. You return to your room after a slightly dull day, open your phone, and suddenly everyone's life looks brighter, busier, more loved, more meaningful, and more photogenic than yours. Even the people you were sitting with an hour ago now look like they belong to a better version of reality. And you know intellectually that social media is curated. You know the photo took 3 tries. You know the smile may not mean emotional peace, but knowledge does not always defeat comparison at 11 p.m. Comparison is powerful because it does not only make you feel behind, it makes you feel separate. It whispers, everyone else is finding their place. Maybe you are the only one still floating. And that whisper becomes loneliness. The fourth reason is something I call the permission problem. In many student friendships, there's an unspoken rule. You're allowed to be stressed, but not too real. You can complain about studies. You can say the mess food is terrible. You can say attendance is unfair. You can joke about family pressure. But if you say, honestly, I don't feel like I belong here, suddenly the room changes. And that sounds dramatic. That sounds heavy. That sounds like you brought emotion to a table that had ordered only noodles and sarcasm. So most students do not say it. They say, I'm just tired. They say, bas mood off hai. They say, nothing, yaar. And then they carry the real thing back to their room. And this is one of the cruelest parts of student loneliness. You're not exactly hiding from people, you're hiding inside people. And because you look socially active, nobody notices that anything needs help. Now, let us pause here and say something very important. If you feel lonely, even with friends, it does not mean something is wrong with your personality. It does not mean you're too difficult. It does not mean you are bad at friendship. It does not mean you are ungrateful. And it definitely does not mean you are weak. Very often, it simply means you are doing something genuinely difficult, building a real life from scratch in a new place under pressure while also trying to look normal. And that is not easy. And please remember, this is not just emotional, it also affects your health. The US Surgeon General has warned that lacking social connection can increase the risk for premature death as much as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Now, that line is shocking, but it tells us something important. Loneliness is not drama, it's not overthinking. It's a real human condition with serious effects. So, the sooner students stop dismissing it, the wiser they become. So, now the next question is obvious. What do you do about it? How do you deal with feeling lonely even when you have friends? So, the first answer is very simple, but very, very powerful. Go one layer deeper. Do not try to fix loneliness by collecting more people. Try to change the quality of one conversation. You do not have to narrate your whole emotional biography to someone over samosa. Calm down. The next time someone asks, how are you? Maybe say one thing that is true instead of one thing that's easy. Not a dramatic confession, just a little honesty. I'm okay, but college still feels strange sometimes. I've been around people all day, but still feeling a bit off. I don't know why, but I've been feeling disconnected lately. You'll be surprised how often one honest sentence changes the temperature of a friendship. Because the truth is, many people around you are probably carrying some version of the same thing. They're just waiting for someone to say it first. The second answer is this: stop measuring belonging by the size of your social calendar. A busy social life can be a very clever disguise for emotional emptiness. The question is not how many people did I spend time with today? The question is, did even one interaction make me feel genuinely seen? One honest conversation can nourish you more than 10 noisy hangouts. One friend who notices your silence is more valuable than 100 people who like your stories. The third answer is look for curious people, not just comfortable people. There's a difference. Some people are fun to be around, and that matters. But some people are curious about you. They notice when your smile is late. They follow up when you say you are tired. They ask the second question. They remember what you said last week. They don't just enjoy your company, they care about your inner weather. And that is the kind of person who often becomes an emotional home. Find them, value them. The fourth answer is give yourself permission to grieve the version of college you were promised. Now, this one is very important. Many students arrive in college carrying invisible expectations. They have seen films, Instagram reels, seniors, stories, brochures, and dreams. They imagine that college will feel exciting, free, deep, magical, and socially natural. And then reality arrives in a crumpled kurta and says, best I can offer is one unfinished assignment, two awkward friendships, and one identity crisis. That gap between expectation and reality hurts. And when students do not name that hurt, they start blaming themselves instead. So if your college life doesn't feel like the version you imagined, that does not mean you failed. It just means real life is happening. Naming that disappointment is healthier than silently carrying it like a personal defect. And the fifth answer is the most serious one. If the loneliness stays, get it a name before it gets a story. Because lonely minds are very creative. Unfortunately, they are often creative in the wrong direction. They start writing dangerous stories. Something is wrong with me. Everyone else is fine. I don't fit anywhere. I'm too much. I'm not enough. I'll always feel like this. And once these stories settle in, loneliness becomes heavier. So talk before the story becomes your identity. Talk to a safe friend. Talk to a sibling. Talk to a mentor. Talk to a counselor. Talk to someone who can listen without turning your pain into advice within 4 seconds. Because sometimes you do not need a solution first. You need witness. You need someone to know that you are carrying something. And now, let me say something directly to the high achieving student listening to this. Sometimes the student who feels most lonely is the one who looked most sorted. The one with decent marks, decent friends, decent routines, decent reputation. Why? Because when everything looks fine, even you start telling yourself that your loneliness is not valid enough to talk about. Please do not do that. Pain does not need a dramatic reason to be real. You're allowed to feel lonely even if you have friends. You're allowed to want depth, not just company. You're allowed to say, I need something more real. And that is not weakness. That is emotional honesty. So now let us return to prayer. One day, after carrying the feeling for too long, she did something very small and very brave. When one of her hostel friends asked, you're okay na? She did not say, हाँ यार, बस sleepy. She said, honestly, I don't know. I have people around me, but I still feel disconnected. And there was a pause. Then the other girl looked at her and said, say. And that was the beginning. Not a dramatic fix, not instant healing, just the beginning of a more real friendship. And that is what I want every listener to understand today. Loneliness does not always disappear because more people arrive. Sometimes it softens because one person becomes real with you. So, what is the final truth? Students feel lonely even with friends because friendship on the outside does not always mean connection on the inside. Because many student friendships begin with performance, not depth. Because comparison makes people feel separate. Because nobody teaches young people how normal this feeling actually is. And because everyone is trying so hard to look okay that very few brave enough to say when they are not. The good news is this: the kind of loneliness is not permanent. It can change. Not always fast, not always dramatically, but it can change. One real conversation at a time, one honest friend at a time, one deeper moment at a time. So here's your life changing call to action for today. Before the next 24 hours ends, do one small brave thing. Message one person you trust and say one thing that is emotionally true. Not a paragraph, not an essay, just one true sentence. And then this week, create one phone free, distraction free conversation with someone. Sit, talk, listen, be real, because your heart is not asking for more notifications, it's asking for more truth. And now, let me speak directly to the student or young person listening to this episode. If this conversation felt too familiar, if you're smiling in the group photo and still feeling alone, if you're managing college life outside and carrying heaviness inside, then please do not carry all of it alone. Sometimes what you need is not one more reel, one more quote, or one more motivational line. Sometimes what you need is a safe space, a real conversation, and someone who helps you understand what you're feeling without judging you. And that is where I can help you. Through my counseling work, I support students and young people who are dealing with career confusion, emotional pressure, loneliness, self doubt, and the quiet weight of trying to be okay all the time. If you want clarity, emotional support, or simply a space where you do not have to perform strength, connect with me. Message me today and let us work through it together, because you're not broken, you're not failing at friendship, and you're not the only one who feels this way. This is Kapeel Gupta, and you're listening to the Kapeel Gupta Career PodShow. Stay honest, stay connected, and remember, sometimes the loneliest feeling is not having no one around, it's having many people around and still feeling unknown. You deserve more than company. You deserve connection.